Who's the chief of surgery? Dad demanded in the ear. The nurse smiled. She's right here, sir. I walked in, holding his charts. Hello, Dad. The emergency room doors burst open at 3 a.m., fluorescent lights harsh against the sterile walls. Paramedics rushed in with a patient clutching his chest. My father, though they didn't know that yet, I watched from the attending physician's station. My white coat crisped the name Dr. Sarah Mitchell, chief of surgery, clearly embroidered above the pocket. Male 65, severe chest pain, possible cardiac event. The paramedic announced. My father's voice, strained but still commanding, cut through the chaos. I need the best. Get me your chief of surgery now. I could still hear his words from 10 years ago echoing in my mind as I watched the scene unfold. Medical school. Don't be ridiculous. Sarah, you can barely handle basic science. Be practical. Take the business degree we offered. Mom had nodded in agreement that day, both of them sitting in our luxury living room disappointed. As usual, doctor study for years. Dear, you've never been good at long-term commitment. I straightened my stethoscope, checking my father's preliminary readings on the tablet. The irony wasn't lost on me. The daughter they said would never finish pre-med was now running one of the country's top cardiac units. Stats, dropping. A nurse called out BP, 160, over 90 and rising. My father's face was pale, but his trademark scowl remained. Where is your chief of surgery? Do you know who I am? I'm Richard Mitchell. Page, Dr. Mitchell, I instructed the nurse, maintaining my professional distance. She knew the protocol we discussed for this possibility, sir. The nurse smiled at my father. She's right here. I stepped forward, charts in hand. Hello, Dad. The monitor's steady beeping punctuated the sudden silence. My father's eyes widened, his mouth opening and closing without sound. The expensive watch he'd always used to check impatiently during our arguments caught the overhead lights as his hand trembled. Sarah, he finally managed you. You're a nurse, chief of surgery. Actually, I corrected, reviewing his EKG for the past 2 years. Those medical conferences, Mom said I was lying about. I was speaking at them. Another nurse appeared with additional test results. Dr. Mitchell, the preliminary cardiac enzymes are ready. Sarah, this is absurd. Dad started trying to sit up. You can't be Dr. Mitchell, I corrected again, my voice professional, and please lie still. You're showing clear signs of cardiac distress. The memory of my medical school acceptance letter, the one they'd laughed at, flashed through my mind. They'd been so certain I'd fail out in the first semester. Instead, I'd graduated top of my class. Get another doctor. He demanded, though his voice was weaker. Now a real dad. I cut him off. You're having a heart attack. I'm the best cardiac surgeon in this hospital, and right now I'm your doctor. We can discuss your disappointment in my career choice after I save your life. His face paled further as the severity of his situation sank in. The monitors chirped more urgently. Prep, or 3. I ordered full cardiac team. Stat, you can't do this. He protested weakly. You're not. You never actually. I did. I said, making notes in his chart. Every time you and Mom told me I couldn't, I did. Every doubt, every dismissal, every mockery of my unrealistic dreams, they all pushed me to work harder. The nurses efficiently prepared him for transfer. Their movements precise. Under my leadership, I trained them, personally, built this department into a national center of excellence, all while my parents believed I was probably waiting tables somewhere. BP continuing to rise. A nurse warned, I'm going to save your life, Dad, I said, clearly meeting his confused eyes. Not because you believed in me, you never did, but because I believed in myself, and because I took an oath to help every patient who comes through those doors. Even you. The transport team arrived to move him to surgery. 10 years of dismissal and doubt hung between us in the fluorescent lights. Sarah, he whispered, fear finally breaking through his pride. That's Dr. Mitchell. I corrected one final time, and we'll talk after surgery. Right now, I have work to do. As they wheeled him toward the OR, I could see the questions in his eyes. How had his unreliable daughter become the person holding his life in her hands? The same hands he'd said weren't steady enough for medicine were about to perform complex cardiac surgery. I turned to my team, professional mask firmly in place, prep for emergency bypass, and someone contact Mrs. Mitchell, tell her to get here quickly. It was time to show my father exactly what his impractical daughter could do. The operating room hummed with familiar tension as I rubbed in my movements precise after 1,000s of similar procedures. Through the window, I could see my team preparing my father, the man who'd once said my hands were too clumsy for real medical work. Dr. Mitchell, my lead surgical resident, approached. Your mother just arrived. She's demanding to speak with the chief of surgery. Of course, she is. I murmured, carefully, scrubbing under my nails. Tell her the chief is preparing to operate on her husband. She doesn't know it's you, does? She know, I replied, drying my hands. She thinks I'm running a small clinic in Chicago. That's what they tell their friends at the country club. The surgical nurse helped me into my gown and gloves through the OR doors. I could hear my mother's voice rising in the corridor. This is ridiculous. My husband needs the best surgeon available. I stepped into the operating room, the familiar weight of responsibility settling over me. My father lay prepped and draped, tubes and monitors surrounding him. The anesthesiologist nodded. Everything was ready. Scalpel, I said, clearly, and the instrument slapped into my palm with practiced precision as I made the initial incision. Memories flooded back. Mom tearing up my anatomy textbooks because they were distasteful. Dad calling my pre-med advisor to say I was dropping out. I wasn't their faces when I told them I'd been accepted to residency at Mass General. Pure disbelief, followed by accusations that I must have cheated. Retractor I called, and my team moved in perfect synchronization. The doors burst open. My mother, having somehow gotten past security, stood frozen in the doorway. Her designer outfit clashed harshly with the sterile environment. "You can't be," she whispered, recognition dawning. "Mrs. Mitchell, you need to leave the OR immediately." My charge nurse moved to intercept her. That's Sarah. That's Dr. Mitchell." My surgical resident corrected, firmly guiding her out, "and she's performing extremely delicate surgery." The door swung shut on her shocked face, and I refocused on the task at hand. My father's heart lay exposed before me, damaged, but salvageable, just like my dream of becoming a doctor had been, despite their best efforts to destroy it. Multiple blockages. I noted, my voice steady.